So, fun fact, I actually forgot I was doing this. Like, I had the lesson plan, and then I was avoiding it, and avoiding it, and avoiding it. So, I'm a little nervous, but I'm just going to tell you just a little bit about me, because I know, you guys know me, but I think it's better to, when someone's talking, you know a little bit about them. So, I'm Taryn, and I got saved when I was 9, and then I got baptized when I was 10. And I actually, I had a little 5-year-old saved moment where I got saved, but I really didn't believe it. I really didn't know. So I was actually on my way home from my grandparents' house, and if you don't know, my grandparents are elderly, and so I was really scared that they were gonna die. And they haven't died yet, so that's good. So I was on my way home, and I was with my dad in his Honda Civic, and I was talking, because usually we have educated conversations, and I was so what if I'm scared of death? And I was doubting my salvation, and he showed me that it's okay, and that he just talked about it, and then we got through it, and then I got saved. And I was actually really kind of ashamed of it a little bit, because I was oh, I told all these people I got saved, and now I'm actually saved now. So it took me a minute to get my bearings down and finally be hooray. But my mom and dad really helped me, and Brianna Ferris, she's not in here, but she really helped me. She was the very first person that wasn't my family that I told, and so she just encouraged me. And ever since then, I've been here, and I just serve God as best of my ability, which I'm actually going to be talking about being a light tonight. But first, before I do that, I'm going to pray. Dear my Father God, I thank you for this day, and I just pray that you help with my nerves and help that I can prepare this in the exact way for somebody to learn something from it. And just pray that I can actually pray for just Wilson and travels and everything with everyone, and just name it. So turn to Matthew 5. Upside down. That's how nervous I am. So as you're turning, I'm just going to tell you, so when you're a light, being a light is something that makes vision possible. And so I want you to think about this as I'm talking. Are you a light? And that's a kind of silly, well, I hope I am, and then are you lighting the right people? And then how do if you don't think you're a light, how do I become that? And then here are some good examples of lights in the Bible. So Matthew 5:14-16 says, "You're the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on the candlestick it is kept. And it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that ye may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." So what I think is cool is that in 14 it says the city is set on a hill, it cannot be hid. And so hopefully when you're saved, you should be lighting the people and lighting the world, and you can't hide it. And so it's obviously natural for that light to be dimmer at some points and then brighter at others. But the first point is, are you the light? So obviously in Matthew 5:16 it says, "Let your light shine before men that you may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." So your foundation, so you should probably be saved. Well, you should definitely be saved.
Yeah.
And you should make sure that you are getting the milk of the Bible and not trying to jump in head first where you don't understand and you're just trying to get through it, so you can you should have your foundation be good. And then you don't have to turn it up because there's a lot of spots, but I'm going to go to John 1:5 if you just so you know. It said, "And the light shined from the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." So the darkness is the unsaved. They don't understand the Word of God, and they could, but it might not be to the full extent, and they might have some different thoughts about it. but and the light shineth in the darkness. So you're shining and you're showing these people in the darkness how good the light can be. And to be a good example of light, you shouldn't be living lukewarm. You shouldn't be living hypocritical. You shouldn't try to live worldly in one moment and then like faith in others. And I've definitely been a person that hasn't lived all the time in the right spots. And I told myself I was going to be real honest with you guys. So bear with me. But I think that one of the most important things is that you shouldn't be a hypocrite in that we have to set all of our good works and we have to put them towards God. Because we're not doing it just to show that we're lights. We're doing it to show that God is the brightest light.
Yeah.
And so then I'm going to go to 1 John. Never mind. And then I say your whole life. So you shouldn't have Sundays and Wednesdays your light. Or you shouldn't have Saturday when we go to church saying be the light. Or you shouldn't have camp be your light. You should have your whole life.
Yeah.
It's like when we go to school or when we're out in public. I definitely felt a little convicted about this. And recently is going to school and not like leaving a track somewhere or like knowing that this person's not saved and not bringing up God about it. Or like when I go out in public like with my family or like when I see my dad like tell somebody about Christ and then I realize like when was the last time I did that. And so just think about that, like as a light we should be trying to create other lights for God. Because if imagine I'm actually doing this Bible study right now with Brooke and she was telling me that if one person you disciple another person, another person, we can reach the world in 30 something years. Like how crazy is that?
Yeah.
So imagine if our goal was to just bring one light a month, like a simple goal. If we could just try to get somebody like to accept Christ, we can reach the world. And that person does that, and that person does that. And obviously not every single person who leads the Lord isn't going to like necessarily follow the right way, but if you do so many people, your probability will be higher. So, and let me say it right. So, Proverbs 16:18 says, pride goeth before destruction, and the heart is or fall. And so, when you're prideful, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I know that you're not supposed to use your phones, but I left mine over here because I was nervous. But I have a little illustration. So I don't know if like the Android phones do this, but I saw this and I thought it was really cool. So if you go here and you have your flashlight on, this is the light, right? You turn your camera and the light turns off because you're looking at yourself. You're on selfie mode and you can't see the light anymore. So when you go, you have the flashlight and then you turn over and then you're looking at yourself and your light turns off. So I thought that was really cool. That when you're looking at yourself and you're not trying to create your light towards Christ, the light turns off.
Oh, come on. Wow.
I know, and I saw that. And it's actually funny. I was scrolling my little Instagram thing, and this girl, she was like on like showing these people. And like I literally like started tearing up because like I was like, oh my gosh, like how much time do I spend doing things for myself or like doing things for my personal record, my personal best, when I should be trying to do as much as I can to show my light to others. Because the flashlight, it's not looking at me, right? I mean, if I turn it on, the flashlight points to you guys. So, and then the moment I turn on to my camera, like it's at yourself. So I think that, I just thought, like, that's crazy. Like, a person who's showing their light is not someone who's prideful or is not somebody who's lukewarm. And in Revelation 2:16 it says, you guys might know this, I'm pretty cool. It says, so then thou, because thou art lukewarm and neither hot or cold, I will spew thee out of my mouth. And that's just like really like convicting because like in my head, like God is such a loving and supportive person, but he would much rather you be one or the other and not one or the other. So I think that's really like crazy to think that like we go through our days exactly exact same. Well, usually, like, you have your schedule, like, you wake up, you do your thing, and you go to school, and then you could go to practice, or you could do, like, your own schedule. And, like, that obviously like, gets old after a while, right? So then we're just doing the same thing. We're not on fire for the same thing we're doing. I use basketball as an example because basketball's a really long season, and my coach is really dedicated to that, and she's always on fire for the basketball. And sometimes our team gets really, like, bored, and she has to, like, remind us, like, you guys are going away, like, we need to get back on fire. And so, like, I use that as a connection to, like, my life, because we do the same thing, or, like, then we, like, start to lose track of what's important. So, like I said earlier, like, I might, like, when was the last time I witnessed to somebody? Like, that's something I always try to ask myself, because it's convicting, right? Like, you do it, and you're really excited, and then you can do it again, and then the next person might not get saved. Or the next person might try to argue with you, and the next person might not agree with you 150%. Or they, like, would say something just to, like, ruffle your feathers. And then you get discouraged, and then the next person doesn't get saved, or the next person just says no thanks. And there's this kid a couple years ago who came to camp, and he didn't get saved, and I was really discouraged, and I was really upset, because all these people were praying for him to get saved, and, like, everyone was doing all these things and putting all their effort towards this one kid to get saved, and he didn't. And I was like, this is dumb. Like, I probably prayed, like, I was, like, really, like, that was like, probably the best my prayer life's been in a while, like, from before, because I really, really, really wanted this kid to get saved, and he, like, knew the understanding, he just didn't want to do it. And then we waited, and I got really discouraged, and then he got saved. And I was like, oh my goodness, wow. And, even though he's not necessarily living like he should, like, you still have that, like, all that prayer and all that time that we put in, it worked. And so when we get discouraged or our light dims, we just have to realize that we can't be lukewarm. We have to get on fire so our light can shine for others. The light burns out naturally, like I just said, and don't be too hard on yourself when it does dim. I think that we get really, really, like, down on ourselves, especially me. I'm the same as you guys. I sit here every Wednesday or whenever, or every Sunday, and I listen to the same stuff you guys do. And when I see somebody, like, really convicted, I know Will says this all the time, like, it makes me think, like, well, did I not understand what they got? Like, should I have gotten something different? And so I'm always, like, constantly telling myself, like, oh, well, maybe you should have, like, knew this, or maybe you should feel this way. But I think we have to remember that God is with us, and that He knows, like, exactly what we're going through. And so even when our light isn't the brightest, He's working towards getting our light back. Yep. And so we can't be hard on ourselves, and we can't be, like, upset. Well, we can be upset, but not too upset where you think, like, oh, well, God doesn't listen to me, or God doesn't care. Because in my life especially, like, I went through a point where I was really upset with God for what happened this past year, and I was really upset. And I was really angry, and I felt really guilty about being angry. And I remember telling Will, he was like, well, it's okay, like, there's righteous anger. And I'm gonna tell you guys, because it meant, like, it changed my way of thinking, because I always thought, like, why am I mad at God? God's so great, like, this is horrible of myself, and I'm so, like, horrible person. But I think you just realize that He uses that to build you up and to make your light shine again. And so the next point is, this is one that I struggle with. Am I lighting the right people? Or who should I even be lighting? And so I put, because I wrote this on my, I have this little poster board thing that I, like, write little thoughts on, or I keep it in my binder. And there should be boundaries set for your unequally yoked friendships. And this one is definitely hard for me, because I go to a public school, and a lot of you guys do, and a lot of the people that I spend a lot of time with, either in sports or in class or with other people in other events, like, they're usually not saved. And I would, like, hang out with them, and just, like, it was just really easy for them to drag me down. I even wrote in Proverbs 16:29. Did I already read that? Figure out if I wrote twice, but that might have meant a lot to me. In was not good. And I just remember I was with my friends, or my acquaintances that I thought were like my closest friends, and we were hanging out, and they did something that like I knew wasn't good, and I like knew in my heart, like we shouldn't be doing this, like what are we doing right now? And that like really like showed like how easy for me to get into a situation that I didn't want to be in. Just because in my head I thought, oh, well, I'm going to get them saved. Or, oh, I'm going to bring them to church. And even though they did go to church with me sometimes, like, you didn't have to set really strict and, like, open boundaries with them because it's so easy for them to bring you into the not good. Yeah. And then that causes your light to dim because you're in a peer pressure situation, and I know that's supposed to talk about it all the time, like, don't get peer pressured or whatever, and I know that's, like, really easy to say, but not act on it, or not execute. That's my favorite word nowadays is execute. But, so I tell myself, like, oh, I'm not a good executor. And I think that when we don't set boundaries for our unequally yoked friends, it goes into other parts of our lives. And if I'm not going to be a good executor about telling my friends, no, how am I supposed to be a good executor about showing the gospel to my friends? Or telling people about God, and sorry. I just get really, like, on my soapbox about it because I've seen so much of my friends fall because they hang out with others that, so. Yep. That aren't good influences. And they're so on fire 1 minute and then they turn away the next.
It's good.
And, then that goes back to don't be hard on yourself because you tried. And it's also something, when you are a light, you're going to have failures, and you're going to have people that don't necessarily accept it, or if they do, and then they don't execute their exception. And I just tell myself, because I have this one friend who, she used to come all the time, and now she doesn't really come, and I like really thought, like, oh, this is all my fault. Like, there was one little argument between us, because, you know, we're high school girls, and now she doesn't want to hang out with me anymore, and she's hanging out with people she shouldn't be, and she's really discouraged, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, God, why didn't I just suck it up and say I'm sorry? And then something happened, and she was like, she finally was like, you were right, and I'm not like saying like I'm perfect or anything, but she wanted to come to one of our events, and it just showed like God was working in that, through my upset and through my prayer, and trying to be a light that it can help. And then you should make sure that the people you're lighting, like, you can light Christians. I thought that was crazy to me. Like, sometimes when I'm like not as bright as I should be, and I see somebody else bright, like, it should encourage you to want to be brighter. And like, you have the boundaries that you set with your unequally yoked friends, but then surround yourself with good people, like people who have like-minded faith and that have the same goals as you. Like, I really didn't have like a lot of close, tight-knit people. Like, I had like some, obviously, but like I didn't have like a community until this past year of just really good people who have the same goals as I. And I think it was crazy how like my mind switched from, oh well, everybody doesn't like me, or everybody doesn't want to be my friend, and so it discouraged me to not want to like reach out. And like Will would say every Wednesday, like, go talk to somebody you don't know. And I'd be like, no. I was like, they don't want to talk to me, like, they don't like me, like, they don't want to be my friend. And then, finally, God working and God showing me, like, He's creating a way for me to be brighter. My, like, whole attitude changed. Like, now when I see somebody, I'm like, oh, how are you? Like, what's your name? Or, like, how can I include you? Or, like, when we go out, and, like, with the church and stuff, like, I used to be the one who would sit in the back and probably, like, sit there in silence, or I talk to my friends, or I remember at the old building, it's this way, and I would sit over here by the exit with my little school people, and I would just talk the whole time. Whisper, giggle, and, sorry, Will. And, until I, like, surround myself, like, I have more, like, we have the same goals. Like, how are we going to get the most out of this lesson? Or how are we going to better ourselves? Or, like, in Sunday school, like, I used to never ask questions. And, like, I used to be so ashamed that I didn't know as much as other people. But in reality, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares, and they all want. I think what was hard for me to realize is that they could be struggling too, and so the two dim lights make a bright light.
Yeah.
And so I think that we have to remember that our lights can shine others. And in Proverbs, I really like Proverbs. 17:70, it says, "A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity." So when your light isn't shining, they're there for you. And just have those tight-knit people. And even if I know how you feel if you don't have a lot of friends at church, because I was that kid, and it gets better, I promise. You just have to try, and when the other people try, you have to accept that they're trying. That was really hard for me, and I'm telling you that you just have to accept it, and you have to put all of your made up, not necessarily made up, or like all your, what's that word, like thoughts or misconceptions aside, and you just have to realize like these people have the same goal as you. Everyone wants everyone to be at their full and their best potential. And so I guess how do you become a light? I can find that. So in order to be a light, you should have your foundation. So if you're not saved, I greatly recommend it. Like 110%. I bet anyone here would tell you, like, do it. It's the best choice you'll ever make.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I've been saved since I was 9 and I'm 16 now. Oh, almost 16. And obviously life's not perfect, but you just have to get saved. And then try to learn. And try to not learn just on Wednesdays and Sundays. And I'm the first one to tell you, I literally sit here and I come here and I'm like, great, I just got my Bible reading for the day. I know that's really bad, but you know, that's how sometimes I like get like really tired and I'm like, I just went to church, like, do I really need to study today? Or like I'm tired, or I just came from basketball, or I just came from sports, or I just came from school, I have tons of homework to do. But in order to be a light, you have to have the milk, and you have to be able to like learn. And I'm just starting this Bible study, and it's really shown me like how much I don't know. And I've been in church my whole life, so my testimony, I was born probably the second Sunday I was alive. I was in the nursery with my mom and watching my. Oh, also, bonus point. Look, if you like, I know not everyone has Christian parents, but look for the Christian adults in your life, and they can really show you a lot about how to live. I think that, like, a lot of you, I see you guys quite often, and those are just my parents. Like, they don't know anything, or like, oh, that's my mom. Like, she's just getting on me. But like growing up and realizing like how much they have sacrificed for you to have a Christian life, or how much the adults in church are trying, or adults in here, you should try to be a light to the people. But some adults, like, they're really trying to like be the example, and even like us, like, we can be the example to the kids over there. Like, I never realized how much I looked up to people who were older than me until I got up here. And even if those people you're looking up to aren't perfect all the time, look up to what they've done good. And then, it's just like any person, like anything you do, like, you're obviously not going to be perfect all the time. Like, when you first start basketball, you can't dribble, you can't shoot. I couldn't even see when I started playing basketball. I didn't know I was, like, didn't have good eyesight until I started. But then I got better, and I got better. And, like, you look at, like, how that person got better, and you use that in your own personal life. And so, to become a light, you just need to look up to your examples and study. And it's obviously, like, the Bible is really confusing. I just prefer, like, I need a simplified version. And she's like, oh, that's why we need to study. And that's actually a good point. Like, in order to understand, like, the Bible doesn't, he wants you to learn. And he gives you, like, we saw today in Genesis, and then in another part of the Bible, like, how, like, the prophecies in the Old Testament shows through the New Testament. And it literally sat there, and I was like, oh my goodness. Like, that's awesome. Because the Bible gives you the answers. And even when, like, you have, like, certain questions, like, come to Sunday school. Like, see a lot of you, but Sunday school is awesome, and like you get to learn, and you just get to ask so many questions, and Will's great about answering them. Even if we ask the same question every other week, like just repetition, and like the Bible. This is what we use, right? This is our milk and meat, and it's all in one. And just use your resources from in my last point. Is who are the lights in the Bible? And so I have a couple that I thought really stood out to me. So I chose Paul because, like I said, like your examples aren't gonna have the best past. So if you don't know anything about Paul, his name was Saul, and his job was to kill Jews and Christians and all that stuff. And Paul was one of the brightest lights to me in the Bible because after all that gossip happened, God forgave him, and his whole life was devoted to preaching and to start churches and to disciple people and to be a light in his best way. And I just think it's awesome that he, after all the bad things that happened to him, and even when he was saved and he was a light, like he was in prison and all these different things, like after all that hard stuff, like even if he was mad at God and ever, he still devoted his life and he would just kept on trying. And then I have Stephen, the guy, the martyr. He literally devoted his life. He died for people of his area, and I don't think we take his story seriously enough sometimes. It's so short, but it's just amazing. Like, all he wanted to do was be a light to people, and the people didn't accept it, obviously, but he gave his life up, and he died just so those people could try. And his life was shining because Jesus, and he wasn't thinking of himself, because could you only imagine? He was like, hey guys, I'm going to preach the gospel, but these people are going to come and stone me, so see ya. Like, he wasn't thinking of that at all. He was literally putting all his life out for people, and he didn't care if his life was gone. And then the last one is Jesus was obviously the brightest light. And he's the biggest example, and I think that we should all look up to him. And his word is right here, and just use it. I don't think that we take advantage of it enough. That it's, I think almost every single home, like I feel like I saw a statistic somewhere that has a Bible. Or even if you don't, like, we'll get you one. Like, obviously, like, there's so many opportunities to get Bibles and to take advantage, and there's so many people who will explain it to you. I think that some misconception I felt like just because you're raised in church, you would know a lot of things about the Bible, and that was like a come to Jesus moment for me because I was like, oh yeah, I come to church all the time, like I know quite a bit. But then when somebody asks you like specific questions, it really shows like how much more you could learn. Yeah. And there's never an unending learning with the Bible. It never like stops showing you things. And I think about my dad. He's up there, did his thing. But like I think it's crazy because on the way he drives me to school every morning, and he's such a great example. He will listen to the Bible and he'll be like, stop, that's so cool. And I'm like, Dad, you're like really old. How do you? Like, you've read this chapter probably like 15 times. Like, you know that it was in there. He's like, yeah, that's the cool thing. It never stops. Yeah. And just like his faithfulness to it, and just like use the adults. Like Will says, like he'll be preaching, he'll be like, wait, look at this. This is so cool. Or like we'll be reading, and I think it's like such an encouragement too, like to listen, not only see. It's like you can't like look at someone, but like we'll be upstairs or we'll be reading, and like somebody will like make like a noise of like that's good, like oh, and like that's almost as encouraging. It's as encouraging as like seeing them praise or like seeing them like understand that. And so I think that like, Jesus just shows you how to be the perfect version of yourself, and even if you fail, it's awesome that he accepts you back. And so my encouragement to you guys is that no matter what happens, because life is gonna throw you some crazy things, just don't ever stop. Don't ever stop coming. Don't ever stop not putting in the most effort. Because at the end of the day, you have two choices when something bad happens to you. You can keep on going. You can just keep on coming even when you don't want to. Or you can just pity yourself. You can be a victim of something that happened to you for the rest of your life. And it's crazy because something happened in my life. And the Sunday we came to church, Will was preaching and he said, here's what to do when you don't know what to do. That was the title of his preaching. And I literally remember I did not want to be there. I was like, this is dumb. I don't want to be here right now. Like, a lot of you guys know, and just a lot of things have happened in this past year, and I just remember sitting there so cold. And we actually went, like, on a little, like, our family did, like, an overnight thing, and we came back, and I was like, I really want to go back to our church, because my mom was like, oh, let's just go somewhere else, like, let's get a break, let's get away. And I was like, no, like, this is weird. And even though I didn't want to be somewhere else, or I didn't want to be here, I didn't want to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so I think once you find, even before you find your community friends, just know, like, everyone here is here for you. And there's no reason to victimize yourself of something for the rest of your life. Because God gives you the exact solution to brighten your life when it's day. And so, like I said, you can be angry, you can be upset, you can struggle. And it's not going to be perfect. Your road's not going to be exactly how you thought. I'm very much like, I have a lot of expectations, and God has shown me that you can't have a lot of you can't have so many expectations, you can't plan out your life to the T. Like, I remember as a little kid, I used to plan out exactly what I was going to do at camp. Every single hour, I knew what I wanted to do. And my dad would tell me, like, that's not going to happen, like, you can't be upset, that doesn't happen to you. And just, it's crazy how, like, God takes that, and he's like, well, this isn't going to happen exactly how you want it, but I promise that we're going to get you where you need to be. Even if you don't know where you need to be, God knows where you need to be. And God knows how to make your light the most efficient. And like I said earlier, the definition of light is something that makes vision possible. And I think of that as, like, even though I might not know exactly what's happening, or I might be like, oh my goodness, like, this is actually crazy what is happening in my life right now, I can see. The people who aren't saved, they can't see. They don't know. They don't even know hope. Like, it's crazy to me. I'll be at school and I'll hear people say, like, oh, World War III's coming, like, this is all crazy. Or I'm in this American history class and the teacher is, like, very good about starting a conversation up about, like, history. And these kids will be like, well, yeah, it's fine. Like, I'm just gonna die. And I'm like, you're okay with just dying? Like, what? Or, like, I took a world religions class last year, and these kids, like, were okay with not knowing what the truth was. And they can see, like, I think it's crazy. If we turn the lights off and you guys can't see, but you know what the room looks like. The people who aren't saved, they don't know what the room looks like.
Yeah. No.
And they're just trying to survive in pitch black. And they might have a Bible in their home, but they don't even know what to do. So I think it's the best for, the most convincing for me is, like, who should I be lighting the people who can't see? Like, that's just amazing to me that, not amazing, because obviously I want them to be able to see, but, like, the most convincing thing is, like, that I never realized until I did this study, is that they're literally, imagine walking, and there's, like, booby traps everywhere. Like, Satan's literally trying to entrap you and not letting you break free. And the people who are saved are like, oh, well, don't step on this block, step on this block. Oh, that block's Satan trying to do something to you, go over here. And, like, I'm trying to get this chair, like, God will tell you, without even telling you, he will just point you in that direction to save you and to get you out of your trap. The people who aren't saved are like, oh, well, I'll step here. Or I'll go here and get discouraged, and get discouraged. And then they'll be like, well, there's no hope, like, we're just going to die. And I just think that it's our job to realize that, because I really didn't realize it until this, and to try to show them and try to make it visible to them. And even when it's hard, even when you think, like, this is crazy, just always remember that at least you can see. And that at rock bottom, you can see up. These people at rock bottom, they can't even look up. They don't even know what's up there. I watched this, like, Christian documentary about this guy from Duck Dynasty. If you haven't seen the movie, it's a great movie. And he just didn't know the truth, and he lived this like crazy life. And I don't know if you guys know who Dr. Hesse is, but this guy, like, his wife and kids had to leave because he was so like crazy, and he like was by himself. And he looked up and he was like, "There's nothing up there." And then he was in like the middle of like he was at his like camp thing, but he found like it's a long story, but like he realized that God was there, and it showed him the light, and he like his whole life changed. Like I think like people will realize like if any of you guys aren't seeing it and you think like my life's crazy, like my life's chaos, like the Bible brightens it up and it shows you the plan, and like people will help you with the plan too. So as lights, we should show them the plan. That's it. I'll pray. Dear my Father God, thank you for this message that I got to show everyone. And it meant so much to me, and I was really nervous, and I shouldn't have put it off. But I thank you and you, God, for like pushing me to do it, and to not stop the conviction in my heart. And I just pray that if anyone in here is in the darkness, that they just realize that there's so much hope, and there's so much just great things ahead, and that people who have the light, and it's not at their most potential. I want them to realize that we've all gone through it, or even if you haven't gone through it yet, you probably will, and that people are there for them, and that you're there for them, and that you just want to help them to get to their best potential, and that we all have the same goal to be the brightest lights. And so I thank you in Jesus' name.
Yeah.